We start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where are we in terms of the minutes? I know the June 21st.
The only second you do not have is June 21st.
Right, okay.
All the rest you have.
But I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look through them.
I did, but I'm not a great spell checker or,
Oh, well.
but I tried.
Spelling isn't quite that important. Do we want to approve the 10th, June 14th and May 17th minutes?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And June 21st is off to the next meeting. Southampton Town Police Department, did you want to weigh in on that?
I looked it over. As far as traffic stops go, there are less this month. And I don't think they got the memo because they're still on the highway and not in the main part of Cyclonic or across the highway. Let's see, traffic stops. There were three arrests made. I don't know what they were for, but they were traffic stop arrests. There are a lot of abandoned 911 calls. Like 19, 18.
I learned that oddly enough from one of our officers. The Apple Watches, if you lie down and don't move for a period of time, some of them have a software program that asks, do you want us to call 911? And if you sleep like my husband does, but he doesn't wear one, I would just say you might not respond. And the officer said to me, they get more 911 from the new Apple Watch. That's insane.
So anyway, as far as traffic stops go, there were 119 this month, and May there were 136. All total for the 3 months is 636. Like I said, the abandoned 911 calls were overwhelming. There was one accident with personal injury on Montauk Highway in Maine, but I don't know how that ended up. We never know the answers to
I
this.
believe that was the woman that was hit on her bicycle. And she is doing better, I hear.
I take it back. It's 5 arrests, not 3. 4 ambulance calls, 2 animal complaints. There was a fire brush, 1 marine incident. You know what that was? A noise complaint, 1, and a pedestrian stop. 3 reckless drivers, but none of them were arrested. 1 school walkthrough and 119 traffic stops.
Have we ever had it go down
I don't know.
during the summer months, like what you talked about in the beginning? I wonder about
Oh, I could look up the years going by. I don't know.
that. It's just interesting that at our busiest time, it would go down.
Yeah. I also looked at each officer for the first 10 pages. And they don't make many traffic stops through their 12-hour shift.
I was thinking exactly that in terms of generating a metric that you could compare, before and after your encouragement to them to
Yeah,
do
so
something.
we met with the police on June 15th. So half of the month went by, and
Right.
then supposedly the sergeant and the chief would have gotten the message out to the guys
Right.
to
Well, I
spend
was
more
thinking
time.
too, maybe compare it to last year. you know,
Yeah.
kind of from one year to the next and see if we're
That's excellent.
working. You know, if you want to get enforcement, it would be nice to see if we're getting.
Well, they are busy with other complaints.
Oh, right, well,
But the traffic stops, like one guy did one traffic stop on his 12-hour shift, you know?
yeah, that doesn't make it.
So, I mean, not that I need everybody to get stopped traffic wise, but we have an issue in Sagaponic with the traffic. So therefore,
Right,
we need them on point with this. And I'm gonna maybe write another letter to the sergeant and the chief, making a few more suggestions, or no?
we have records of last year's,
Yeah.
maybe it'd be worth comparing
All right,
to and
I'll do
see.
that.
And you can do it without putting, I know when you did it this time, you did it by the officer or whatever, but you can just assign the officers A, B, C, D to make a
Yeah.
point with
Yeah.
the chief
Mhm.
without saying the
Mhm.
officer.
Then I'll stick Rhodey on those guys.
Yeah.
Right. What was, I had skipped over the resilient landscape presentation. We had Tony Piazza lined up and he got jammed up with something and couldn't do it, but he's scheduled for next month. So miss him because he's done a lot of public projects. You know, if you've been through East Hampton Town, that planting in the drainage swale to the pond, that's him. And he's done other things. I'm not sure all of them, but I know he's very much into that type of stuff. And he's a good guy to have us lecture us in terms of making landscapes that are more productive for the birds, bees, everything else we'd like to see more of, and maybe a little less toxic. Traffic calming, safety measures. We've got more letters. I was thinking that I would, I don't know if everybody understands what the whole deal is with speed humps, but I know we have an audience online too.
They're talking about the speed bumps and stuff. You might want to hear this.
As you drive down the road and you see a sign that says speed bump, the reaction is generally to slow down a bit. And then you go over it, and then it takes a while for you to get back up to whatever speed you thought you were working at, you wanted to proceed at. And if you go to some place where they've used these extensively, they figure out the distance. There's a ratio between how the speed bump is constructed and the distance in between them. And with the net result that the obstruction in the road brings down the average speed to a level that you feel comfortable with. I know when we went to Jennings Avenue in Patchogue and saw what they did up there, you realize that those people were very upset at people using their road as a bypass and speeding on it, because there was very little traffic and no one went fast. And just a point of reference, there is a fire station, the head fire station in Patchogue, in the midst of this stuff, and the volunteers get to the firehouse and they get the equipment out with speed bumps that are constructed much more disruptively than what we have here. Theirs are 5 inches tall, and the tallest thing we've made is 3 inches. When you drive over them, you know you've been over a speed bump. The speed bumps by the school were modeled after, Glover Street in Sag Harbor. If you look at the State Department of Transportation analysis of that, it's 3 inch tall by approximately 14 foot in length speed bump, which is the design speed is 15 miles an hour, which is what the school zone is. Plus, when you consider that they're very close to a stop sign, even though they seem kind of disruptive, they're very much in line with what's trying to be accomplished there. The other speed bumps in the town are really, they're called speed tables by the engineers, but we call them speed bumps. And those are approximately 3 inches tall and around 20 feet in length. And their design speed, according to the state, is 25 miles an hour, which is our speed limit. The only problem is if you only have one on a road, people go fast as hell until they see it, then they slow down in advance of it. They go over it and then they speed up again afterwards. And that's why, as uncomfortable it is, there's a necessity to put more than one within a distance. And my own thought has been that I'd like to get the speed down, average speed down on the roads below 40. And a 25-mile-an-hour speed bump with a given distance should eventually get us to that. I know I've spent a bunch of time talking to people and soliciting comments. Let's see, the email that was sent out last month, I solicited comments from people. And for those who didn't bother to read it, I'm going to read it right now. To help slow the hordes of bypass traffic streaming through our once peaceful roads, we the residents should make sure we actually stop at stop signs and drive within our 25-mile speed limit. As an attempt at traffic calming, the village has installed several speed tables and speed humps at various locations throughout the village, which we have signed as speed bumps. This was done after reviewing the positive effect the 5 speed humps installed by the village of Patchogue had on Jennings Avenue, which are actually 5 inches tall compared to our 3-inch humps by Sag School. It is also of note that one of the local fire departments is located on Jennings Avenue, and they have no issues with them. As a resident of Narrow Lane East, I can attest that the recently installed speed tables there have significantly reduced the speed of trucks and the average speed of cars. However, they appear to be less of a calming factor on autos with advanced suspensions. I noticed that some cars, the people manage to go over them very fast, and it doesn't seem to bother them, but most cars, and especially trucks, are vastly slowed down. To mark the event, let's see, where are we? Some neighbors want more, other neighbors don't like driving over them. I would welcome your comments. Please direct any you may have to the village office. In response to that, we got 20 emails. 18 of which liked the speed bumps and 2 of which did not like the speed bumps. Going on from that, I've been running into people and talking to them, and I've got a record of everybody I talked to and their response to it. And people who were pro speed bumps, I received 17 emails regarding they wanted more. We've received 25 signatories to petitions asking for more speed bumps in specific locations. And I personally spoke to 25 people who were for speed bumps. That's a total of 67 people. Anti-speed bumps. I received 3 emails which were against speed bumps. And I was actually able to talk to 3 people who were against speed bumps. One of them swore at me. I enjoyed it. It's good therapy. So we've heard in from 73 people how they look at this. At our last meeting, I know there was some thought of sending out another request for comment. And personally, I think that's a delaying tactic. I mean, I've got 73 people who've weighed in. The first go around, we sent out, what, 650 approximately emails to people, and we only got 20 responses. Either people don't care or they're not interested, whatever. I personally would like to move ahead and make a decision to do things. I made up a list, which I think is, I thought about in terms of picking locations where either people have requested them by petition, or where, say, on Daniels Lane, where there's only 1 speed bump, you need more to have more of an effect. to cap the actual top speed. One of the people I spoke with who was against speed bumps, I won't mention his name, a volunteer in the village, but he likes to drive to his house fast or doesn't want to have any obstructions. He didn't like stop signs or speed bumps. An ambulance person happened to be eavesdropping, and after I got done listening to him, I didn't argue with him. The ambulance person came over and started to tell about picking up people who had been hit by cars. And I didn't follow up. I don't know what kind of effect it had on him. But I think back to James Walker, whose daughter was killed in front of Bridgehampton School, and how after she died, the state went and put in rumble strips to try to slow people down who ignored the school zone. I'll say it again, it's not nice, but I don't really want to be the mayor when somebody gets hit here. And I think 30 years ago, when I was the chair of the Sagaponic Citizens Advisory Committee, we asked for a lot of the stuff that's being asked now. We asked for more police involvement here. And the things we asked for were pretty much ignored because not many people in the Sagaponic vote, and the politicians know where the votes come from, and they spent their money and did the enforcement to the west of us. We're in a position now where we can do this kind of thing. We've got our own budget, we've got our own authority to, I'm sorry to say, I don't like speed bumps, but they obstruct traffic, they force people to slow down, and stop signs do help, but I see enough people go through stop signs to know that they are optional. Right now, we're not allowed to have speed cameras, and some people may not care if they get fined. So to me, an obstruction in the road is the most effective way to get compliance. And I'm not talking about tremendously tall speed bumps. These things are designed so you can drive over them. Emergency vehicles can get over them. And to me, it's the only way to get the job done. And I'd like to proceed and tighten things up a bit. Anyway.
In order to go forward, all board members responded to ideas on paving and road calming effects. Do you want to do it by road, or I'm just suggesting a way to get to a
Right.
spot? Obviously, the paving is sometimes an easier way of putting one in.
No, they're done after the.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
I thought economically speaking,
Well, we want to do it in conjunction. We
junction
get a
with
big
paving
paving
when
company
when
here,
we can.
and we get it all bundled together, right?
Is
I
Bill
can see
Barber
you're
on?
upset, but,
I'm not upset.
No,
oh,
it's not.
okay,
I'm ready to talk though, and
okay.
Oh, I just was checking, is Bill Barber on?
No,
Because
he is
he,
not. No, Bill is not on.
okay, because he would be allowed to vote in his conditions.
Yes, he
correct?
would.
Yes.
Right.
He's supposed to be laying down though.
I know he's supposed to be not moving, so.
Go ahead.
well, I'd like to make a suggestion that we not vote today and that we do delay, and that would be the key to this. I think we should wait and see how the 8 speed bumps go for the whole year through a winter season, and next fall, maybe look at these 14 new suggestions on speed bumps. I'm not against safety, and I do agree with some speed bumps, but I'm concerned of too many too soon. And what's the harm in waiting and seeing if they work well, and if we can get other less expensive and extreme measures to change our traffic problem with the police, and do a study or a research and to see if they're actually warranted. The issue is a few people not obeying our traffic, except for the people who come through evading Montauk Highway. So they are a big problem. But I think most of our community does do under 40%, 40 miles per hour, except for the few who don't during our summer months. And I suggest we not vote today and that we look into getting a police officer, maybe an unmarked car in the area that you think you want a speed bump, and have them go a few days and a few different hours and see what's, happening there, to see if they are warranted. I mean, it's like, we're not, it's like speed dial, a speed bump, and okay, you can have that. And there's just too many in my eyes.
I think you're misunderstanding how they work. One speed bump on Daniels Lane has no effect on the traffic.
Well, actually, I have more to say about,
Okay,
I don't like the fact that we're a small historic community and having 22 speed bumps in 17 miles of road is extreme in my eyes and expensive. And I'm thinking that if we could use the police in a better way, we can curtail some of these issues, maybe not all. And then in the long run, if they are found that they are warranted, then we put them in. I don't like this ramming down our throats kind of scenario, not to put it that way, but I just said it. So.
Anybody else on the board?
Well, in order to do any road paving this fall, we need Jim Peterman's group to survey the roads, correct? If that road has not been
Whatever road.
paved under our tutelage of existence, that has to be done in advance.
I guess so, yeah. I hate paying the money for, I mean, Seascape is really the road, the next one to go up. We're still working on trying to get cooperation from Southampton, East Hampton Town for Town Line Road. And when you see that we're not going to widen it, we're simply going to repave. I guess they have to do a survey for the sense that,
They have to know where all the
yeah,
gas and whatever is. But
yeah, I know.
in respect to Town Line, how far, well, either of you could know, anyone, didn't we survey from Daniels to the beach on our side?
Yes.
We have not surveyed from Daniels to Montauk Highway. So if we were able, and I would like to see Town Line, that's my personal Town Line road, be paved, and pedestrian safe lane on one side, that would be quite a survey project. And we would, I'm just saying, Town Line is a pretty long and in serious need road to be paved, and you knew I wrote it on my list. Seascape probably would have to be surveyed in certain areas, particularly where we had drainage issues and like the pond coming over in those sections, to know what's in there. Marilyn and Carrie, and do you agree that getting ready to even do any of this process, nothing's going to happen if we can't get those surveys in advance organized?
We need an agreement with East Hampton Town as to how things are going to get paid for. If we go and do a survey before, we're going to pay for 100% of it. We have to have some agreement as to how that's going to happen. And we're currently working on that. But we have to,
I thought we had an agreement from the original forming of the village.
nothing on paper.
That
There's been a verbal agreement
It's not
between
right.
highway superintendents who would go over there, smoke a cigar and say, you're doing this, I'm doing that. And we have a new highway superintendent who's representing us, and they're about to change supervisors. And their highway superintendent has not really wanted to come to the table. I mean, I've got this statement where he said that I have no plans, that's no timeline on it of repaving Town Line Road. I think quite possibly because Waynescott was trying to become a village, or who knows why, but for some reason and so for me, until we have an agreement, there's no reason to look at it. And we're not going to spend money on it if we're not going to share it with East Hampton. We need the agreement first. McCardle has no history with the superintendent over there and being new, maybe. I don't know what the dynamic is, but we're working at it, trying to find someone who will talk to us about it. People, we have people here. Does anybody want to jump in? I know Lee, you wrote a letter, and Dean wrote a letter, and I talked to Mary Lee, and you guys want a speed bump so people don't run over people at your stand.
They probably have said it in their, I guess you have to say in their words. Yes, I do. I have these things that I have actually written, which means it comes out of my mouth logically. Rhoda, you have a copy here, so you can.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is different, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, that's it. Oh, no, that's another one. That's me. That's me
Okay,
today.
got it.
But you can correct me. I got along. Good afternoon, Village Board and Mayor Tillotson. I'd like you to seriously consider installing a speed bump along the stretch of Sagaponic Main Street that runs along our property 729, 698, and 730. It is traveled by those going both to Sag Beach and Gibson, a lot of cars, and it is used by vehicles coming over Sag Bridge and going north, AKA the alternate route to 27. A number of years ago, we delighted in a flock of guinea hens who patrol the road, often slowing traffic because their arcane behavior, but no more because they were too often run over and no one stopped. Not kids, they were birds. That was still very painful. But more to the point, Sagaponic shares the road, and I think this is the point I'd like to make. And we have more and more pedestrians, walking, people using the bike path, and clearly speed bumps have slowed the vehicular flow. I've noticed it and I applaud it, and that's why I'm here to ask your assistance, really. Coming around the bend in front of Jeff White's and Marilee's farm stand has become the start gun of unsafe acceleration past the cemetery until minimally braking at Bridge Lane. A speed bump installed somewhere along the straight of way would result in a safer environment for people and animals. And I believe, in light of your previous discussions about roads and safety, that it's reasonable to approve one placed in this particular location. The only other comment that I would like to make is that I did see our previous mayor, Don Lockheim, just recently, and his comment about speed bumps, which interests me, he has absolutely, apparently, no, well, he doesn't live here, but he said the only thing that he felt might be indicative of new ones would be to make sure that the signage is a little bit further back so that you have more of a chance to read it first and then acknowledge that you're going to run into a speed bump and maybe even the asphalt marking. But other than that, basically that's what he said to me. So thank you very much.
In terms of the visual impact in the historic district, if that's acceptable to you, to have the speed bump there? I know
We've gone
people,
through all the hardship that we went through with deer fence.
Yeah.
The speed bump is a minimal impact. I mean, if more people will slow down, I think, and likely enjoy the ride more. I don't know. Maybe they'll growl. I'm not sure.
do we have other people who would like to speak?
Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name again?
I didn't say it. Kathy Engel. And by the way, I don't get those emails. So that's something that, I've been wondering. I mean, I knew about this meeting.
Do I have your email?
I don't know.
If I don't have it, then you're not gonna get it, so
So,
if you give it to
but
me.
I'm just
I
saying
will include you.
sometimes, because
Okay.
I have written a letter when the issue first came up, that I would have written it. I'm so excited about the speed bumps because the increasing volume over the years of traffic and the speed, to me, is one of the things that is makes you suddenly realize that the beautiful place where you grew up and where you live and where you want to live, you might just want to run away from. That's one, but that's the easy part. The other part is the danger. The real issue is the danger. And I sometimes say to our daughters or to John, we live on Narrow Lane East also. I don't know if we had young children still, how we would deal with living on this road. It's really scary. And I think, because I walk and run on Sag Lane and Daniels Lane, the same. I mean, ours is used as a shortcut, so sometimes it's maybe even more dense. But of all the things that I find really difficult to witness and to live with about the changes in our community, this intervention is a welcome. I can't see any downside in it at all. I mean, and anecdotally, because it hasn't been that long, I was noticing in the last couple of weeks that it seems to be working. People seem to be paying attention. In the beginning, it looked like they were kind of careening up and then backing up, and then trying to go around. But just anecdotal. So I would worry about delaying, honestly, because I think it's too important. And with the support that's come in, it seems to me that to move on something that can actually make our village and our roads safer for everybody, for people walking dogs, for young children on bikes and older people on bikes and all of us, is highest priority. Thank you.
Someone else like to address?
Oh,
Age before beauty.
Yeah.
They're doing it in the room, I could tell.
Beauty.
I didn't think I'd be ever coming up here again, but
You're always welcome.
I just don't see.
Just state your name for the record, please, my
Oh,
dear.
Tinka Topping, 58 Daniels Way. Thank you. And I've lived there many years, and I've seen lots of changes, and I don't imagine that we cannot do this. I think we have to do this. And I have children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren who come here. I don't want to see waiting and then suddenly somebody gets hurt. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait at all. So I think that there's enough evidence that this works. I can't say where to put the speed bumps or how to decide the paving and all of that stuff. But I would say that waiting is a big mistake. You don't want to wake up one day and hear that some kid has been hurt or so I would urge speed as soon as possible before I leave this planet.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, same family. Can we have three
Sure.
different people?
You're the guy biking in the dark.
But they wear wonderful vests.
Sometimes,
Yeah,
not all the time.
Sometimes.
Oh, I'm
A lot
sorry.
of Bill. Yeah.
I've seen the
I live
vests.
across the street from Bill, 255 Narrow Lane in South Palm.
And your name is?
Oh, my name. John Snow. Thank you. I don't want to go far afield, but I do want to mention that I've had a lot of experience with traffic over the last 30 years out here because of me trying to keep everyone alive at the Hayground Camp. Because we have 350 campers and the cars come through and we have a wretched little excuse for a speed bump. And it's really scary and it's really hard to slow people down. And this leads me to the one point that I really wanted to make, which is that I don't think it's just a question of speed bumps, although that's great, I'm really for it. It's a question of what is our culture of driving and how is it changing? And it's really changing radically because partly I think people are coming for weekends and less than weekends, we're only here for a week, who are in cars they rented and are driving extremely fast
And don't know how to drive because they rented the cars.
and don't know how to drive. And how many people have you seen using their turn signals in the last year or not using them? This is a driving culture that is now completely dismissive of the pedestrian, of the bicycle rider, of the people who are, how many times have you gotten honked at for not going faster? And so I think that in some way, and also the last thing is, how impossible is it for our police department to actually enforce anything? Most of the time, they are being polite and saying, listen, you know how fast you are going, but very rarely are they saying, you know, I'm gonna write you a ticket because you were going 60 miles an hour past that at school. So anyway, that's all I want to say. I think we need to get other communities around us, with us, to somehow look for a way, because we don't have the police department that can handle this. They're overwhelmed. Anyway, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And you're appointed to the committee.
My point is what?
You're
appointed.
appointed to the committee.
Speed from the committee.
John, do you want to?
I'll be on the speed bump team.
John Crane, 144 Town Line, and I sent a note to the board either last night or this morning. I won't summarize it all here. What I'd like to say, though, is I'm sort of in the middle. I like the speed bumps we've got. They really do work. I like the stop signs. I'm on Town Line Road, and 4 new stop signs really keeps people from racing to the beach. Although it would be fun to put at the end of the line, Town Line Road, before you got to the beach, sign that said, please resume speed. That would settle it down. I've advocated since at least last year, and again, in my note to you guys, that I think we need professional help. Every once in a while, we all need professional help. There's people in this business of traffic engineering. And while I'm not opposed to additional speed bumps, certainly the places mentioned, they would be very helpful and they would improve safety. But as far as I've seen, there's no limiting principle. 30 speed bumps, 100 speed bumps. Where should they be? Are they effective? You mentioned getting the average speed down to 40. How will we know? We don't have data, we don't have a baseline. And there are people I have no idea exactly who these people are or what they charge, but traffic engineering studies are common. There's people in that business. They could monitor our roads. They could do a proper study. They could look at traffic volumes. They could look at speeds. They could look at where are the people bypassing the jam up on 27, in which direction, what hours of the day, what weeks and months of the year. And it would give us a solid basis of fact on which to make these decisions going forward. So I think some additional steps right now are clearly warranted, and I would support them, and I think my neighbors on Town Line Road would support them. But I would like to have a firmer basis for the longer term on how we want to try to manage the traffic and make it safe.
I'm with you.
My other thought, again, along the lines of what Carrie has already started to pursue, I don't think we should accept an excuse from the Southampton police that they can't enforce the traffic. And to have an officer on a 12-hour shift write 1 ticket, that's ridiculous. You can walk out there right now and in 10 minutes, write 10 tickets.
They have to be at the right place at the right time, though.
Well, that's their job.
The one guy.
Yes, I know. I would like to see enforcement, and if the village can afford it, if we can hire somebody else at certain times of the day to look at what's going on in Merrill Lane. Look at Hedges Lane, Daniels Lane, the major bypass streets where everybody's flying. Station a cop there and start writing tickets. As I wrote in my letter, which I guess the folks in the audience haven't seen, I remember the days, I'm old enough, when Watermill was a notorious speed trap. Everybody used to drive out here in the 70s from New York City. And you knew coming around that bend from Southampton, coming into Watermill, if you didn't put the brakes down and slow down, you were gonna get a ticket. And everybody knew. And once everybody knows, everybody starts to drive more slow. And I think it'd be hard to replicate that in these days and these times. But people should know if they violate our traffic laws, they will get busted for it. So let's do more of what we've been doing. I think that's good. Maybe not 14. I don't even know where they would go. But we should also hire some professionals to give us a report
Guidance.
on where we are and what we could do going forward.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
And it might not have been you last year, but you were here when we
Yes, I was.
discussed this. There was a gentleman in the audience, was it you that talked about Google Earth? When you do that map thing and you're coming out east, it shoots you off by the Safe Flight car place and through and down.
I didn't mention that. And
Oh, it wasn't you, all right, okay,
But I know the problem is that I use Google Maps all the time. I keep it on in my car
That
when
is
I'm
Jeff.
driving into King Cullen. It just happens to be on my phone on my dash. But everybody who's not familiar with driving out here has got either Apple Maps or Google Maps
Right.
sitting on their phone or in their GPS system in their vehicle. And it takes them off the highway and runs them through our village. And it
right.
runs them through Waynescott.
Yeah.
And then back out onto the highway.
And depending on when the traffic hits, because I suffer via the over Bridge Lane and you also hear the Bridge Lane, Cemetery, Gibson, Daniels, and out to you on Talent. And so there's 2 or 3 routes that are being used in this map programming. And if it was Jeff Tannenbaum and not you, or maybe.
You know, it's another gentleman, I don't remember his name.
It could have been Jim Prusky, but.
Yeah,
Okay, 'cause
that might have been-
I'm not the computer person to even figure out how that happens particularly. But, and I mean, we all use Google Maps sometimes, but that's something we should add to our list.
I don't think there's anything to be done about that because the way they work under the covers is that they operate on real-time data. They know where the phones are, they're tuned into Google Maps, they know if they're moving it.
So they're not repeating it.
If they know that it's moving at 5 miles an hour out here, it's gonna take you off the highway and send you across Parsonage to, bypass the lake here. And it's real-time data. If there's an accident on the highway, it's gonna take you off. Yeah, so it's not something that's pre-programmed where we could appeal to Google or Apple. That would do and say, please don't let people drive through our neighborhood.
Okay, that's good. Just your idea of doing a study. I was on a committee with the town for 2 years with probably a close to $1 million budget studying traffic of all the things you're talking about. And at the end of it, we spent a tremendous amount of money and nothing happened. Okay. And if you go to the DOT websites and you read the things, you can figure out pretty much, and you go around, you can figure out where you can start putting these things in. I'm about direct action. Let's not spend the money on consultants who get a fortune. I mean, 2 years, a huge budget, and nothing happened, okay?
Well, this
And
is
I don't want to do that
different
again. No, I'm
circumstance.
talking, hold on, just, we can pick out, we can hone in a bit. If you look at the data on these things, how they lay them out, and you look at, community where they've done them, all over Florida, they've done this type of thing. They put them really close. And we're like hardly touching we're just trying to bring the speed down from 60 down to below 40. And those people who speed cannot speed if you get a speed bump every so often. And that's really what I'm looking for. If
Yeah,
later
I-
on,
I
somebody's got the
understand that,
money,
and I'm very
if
familiar
somebody
with it.
has the money to spend, a couple $100,000 on a study, they can figure out, okay, we got to fill in a few more to get it down to 30 miles an hour. But, studies take time and a lot of money. Let's do something now that's, I've had enough debates.
Well, we have done something.
One speed bump on Daniels Lane does not address the problem.
Well, we
I
have
understand that, and I
eight-
wouldn't gainsay the fact that we could become knowledgeable traffic engineers ourselves. But that would take some time, and who knows? And if we had acted on this a year ago, the first time I was up here suggesting it on it's kind of a different matter, but having to do with traffic safety, we would have some factual basis already in hand. If we act now, a year from now, for next summer, we'll have a factual basis in hand. So I am split. I agree. Bias toward action has like been my MO for much of my career. Let's move now, let's not wait. And there's some obvious places where that's.
1 year from now, I won't be mayor and you'll be dealing with somebody else. That's what I'm telling you.
Right, but I'll still be dealing with, we will all still be dealing with village and the board of trustees. And the board of trustees lives on beyond any individual member. So,
Okay?
thank you.
Come on up again, sure. We have some people on Zoom, but
We do, I was
let's,
just gonna say that we do have them on
Wait,
Zoom.
take a seat.
We've got 3 members on Zoom. 3.
come on
You have
up.
to, or they can't see you or hear you.
I just want to say, I don't know how many years ago it was, that we tried to get the police here because there were speeding problems then, nothing like it is now. But, and the police were supposed to help. They can't do it all. The people that come down Daniels Lane, they roar down. And I think they are, whoever you, John, you think they are, or they're, I don't know what it is, but it's much worse. And the police, I don't think we can count on them. And if we wait and do study after study, I agree with you that they take time, they take money, and we have enough anecdotal information to move ahead. I would welcome anybody who's a professional to say where they should go. Certainly one speed bump on Daniels Lane, you might as well forget it. You might as well not have put it in. It has no effect. There has to be more. That road where I live is just a nightmare. And I have to leap across onto the grass in order to avoid the possibility of getting bumped off myself. And what about my children and grandchildren and so forth? So I'm not for waiting to do whatever the professionals say you have to do in terms of paving and where and so forth. But let's not wait another year to stand here and say, yes, okay, another year will be this and that, and then somebody will.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do we know anything about temporary speed bumps? Like,
Well,
seasonal?
snow plowing. You can't put a temporary speed bump. in
Well,
with
I
snow
mean,
plowing.
put this temporary speed bump for June, July, and August, when there is no snow. And then take them away when we do. I mean, do they have them? Do you know about them?
North Haven put in a speed bump at Tyndall Road and Sunset Boulevard, their first speed bump. And I went over and saw it when it went in. I heard about it. And I went back the other day and they'd taken it out because it was a 1-lane speed bump, but right at a stop sign because people ran the stop sign. And I asked the deputy mayor about it, and he said they took it out because people were going around it.
Oh, 1 lane once, oh, interesting, they only do
Well,
1 lane.
It worked for what it did, but you want to go to Zoom? Whoever wants to speak on Zoom?
Sure, you've got 3 members, Joseph Spanholz, Bruce Sherman, and David McMillan.
Okay, whoever you pick them.
Does anyone want to speak on Zoom?
Yeah, I'd be willing to speak.
Okay, go right
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, so I'll just introduce myself. I'm Joe Spanholz, here with my wife, Nancy Bronstein. We live on Crestview Lane. Fortunate for us because it's a pretty calm place generally. Getting here, of course, not so much. And we've been in Sagaponic for a very long time, initially as renters, but now with a home. And there's no question that the actions that have been taken have really helped calm down some of the crazy stuff that we've all observed on the roads. And so I thank the mayor and the trustees for the actions they've taken, because I think we owe you a debt of gratitude for making a courageous step. But as you pointed out, we're certainly not done. And we're not done for a couple of reasons, but one of them is the attitude of many of the drivers who are rushing. And in that category, I want to say it's not just people coming out from the city, although that is a segment of it. It's also people in the service and construction industries who have had to deal with very difficult driving conditions on 27 and are anxious to get to their jobs and do their work. But what the speed bumps have done for both is eliminate the attitude that I call and have always said is, well, it doesn't mean me, it's advisory. When you put up signage and you say, this is the speed limit, or you have a stop sign, unfortunately, there's a segment of citizens who say, well, it doesn't really mean me. I'm allowed to ignore it. It's an advisory as far as I'm concerned, and that's the way to behave. The trucks and the service companies are somewhat different. They have a salubrious effect in that by having to go over the speed bumps, they slow down and they create something of a respite in the traffic that's happened behind them. And Mr. Mayor, I know you've talked about being pace cars. Well, I'm one of your pace cars. I go the speed limit in the village, and I don't care how many cars back up behind me. And I've noticed that more and more people who are local and spend more time here, not just on weekends or not on a mission for work, are themselves acting as pace cars. And I think that's having a very good effect on helping, but it's not done yet. And I don't want to take up too much time, but to say, I think we should go further. I think it's caused no downside except perhaps a little bit of aesthetics. And, you know, I wish we didn't have to have these things too, but I think the people in Phoenix wish they didn't have 19 days of 110 degrees. Sometimes you have to act to bring about change, even though it might have some consequences that you wish didn't come along with it. So I think you've done great. I encourage you to do more. You're doing the right thing. And now is not the time to back away. Now is the time to go further. And if something really crazy came out of that, we'd remove them. We'd send something out there to take them away if it turned out to be a terrible mistake. But it won't be. I can assure you, you're doing the right thing. And I encourage you to continue. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the comments.
Anyone else on Zoom wish to speak?
Yes.
Dr. Sherman?
Yes, hi. Sometimes I try to be, I always try to be a pacer. That's a new term to
Just
me.
introduce yourself, would you please? Thank you.
Bruce Sherman, hello. Oh, 214 Town Line Road. Is that enough?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Sometimes when I try to be a pacer, which is all times actually, it's amazing how the impatience of some people, sometimes big trucks, will go around me and go 60, 70 miles an hour. It's just, I don't know, how do you deal with people's impatience? I don't know. Everyone's in a hurry to get to the beach to relax. There's a woman who lives down the block. She's running to the beach to meditate. So I don't know, but I'm all for all the things you're trying to do. I just want to lend my voice, and hopefully it's helping.
Thank you.
Maybe more needs to be done.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Anyone else on Zoom?
Yeah, this is Dave McMillan. Can you hear me?
Can you put your video on, David?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Hang on one second.
All righty, well, speak away then, sir. Introduce yourself.
Oh, I got it. I think everybody knows kind of how I feel about this. Obviously, Dave McMillan, 615 Hedges Lane.
Thank you.
And I just want to respond to a couple of things. One is that Lisa, you asked the question, who came up with those kind of the the Google Maps. It's actually Waze and Google Maps are the ones that actually do that. And they actually track cars on a real-time basis. And interesting enough, everyone knows that Hedges Lane is kind of the gateway to East Hampton through Wayne Scott, down Town Line Road. And interesting enough, when traffic backs up on Montauk, that's the route they take you. As a matter of fact, they can go, Waze will actually tell you to get on in just before, right, just at Bridgehampton, before you get to Sagaponack and go the back roads over the bridge to Daniels. And it's still doing that, but it is the speed tables have affected them somewhat because it's all timed on a real-time basis. It's really fascinating with what's going on with the new technology. The other thing I do want to mention is that thank you for putting in the 2 speed bumps on Hedges Lane. I mean, I haven't been passed at 90 miles an hour, at least this summer yet, although close, because they do have a tendency to start speeding up after the second speed bump. And I live down towards the town line and the road. So they are, the cars and the commercial traffic are gearing up and speeding. So to me, it is kind of pointless to have 1 speed bump on a parsonage. It would make no sense at all. It just means people would just start gearing up and revving up. I just want to point that out. I think doing a study, I mean, Jeff Tannenbaum spent 6 figures on a study for the town during Mayor Lockheim's thing. We've all seen it. It's a book that's 300 pages thick, and it all comes up with the same conclusion. So doing more studies and delaying things, it's just a waste of time and money, and things don't get done. I honestly don't know where the speed bumps should be. That's what the professionals are for. But I do think we can't wait. I think you got to continue to do it. It is a noticeable effect that people are slowing down. The stop signs on Town Line Road have definitely had an effect on people going fast, especially down towards the beach. Not everybody stops at the stop signs. They're kind of glance and go for a lot of people, and that has to be enforced by the police at some point. But I just want to let you know that I'm obviously all in favor of speed bumps. And everybody I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot of people in the last year, obviously, very few minority feel that we shouldn't have speed bumps. I think that's not representative of really what the residents of the village of Sagaponack want. People think we need to do more. I do also agree it's a cultural thing. I love the fact that people are slowing down, or kind of the chase car idea. I mean, I go slow. I have been passed down at the bottom of my road, but at least it does slow the traffic down. And, you know, if you want your kids and your grandchildren to be able to walk the road safely, we need to go forward here and do more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have another question.
Sure.
Do you know, like, what type of distance we would need between the bumps to make the difference? A difference?
Well, if you look at the literature, they're talking about 300 to 500 feet between speed bumps.
So are you saying we need that speed bumps on a road that far apart for the whole
I
road?
wasn't going to suggest that. I think in an extreme situation like they did in Patchogue, those things aren't that far apart, but you see the result they got. I don't think we have to get people down to 25 miles an hour. I mean, some people will drive 25 just naturally, but what I'm trying to do is cap the high end of it. So if you have half a mile between speed bumps, it's very easy for people to get back up to 60 or 70 between them. When you drop that in half, after a while, they get tired of gunning it up and slowing down, gunning it and slowing it down. So I don't think we have to go to the extreme where the textbook, they would put them in that close. And you can just put them in until you're happy. But I think right now we're not to the happy point.
What do you think about the temporary speed bumps?
Well, it's just money. You pay and you pay and you pay and you pay. I think the engineers and the whoever puts them in would love it. But
How else does it cost to put a speed bump in?
the asphalt ones we're doing now, I don't know, is it like average out to 12,000?
48,000 for 4 we put in. So about 10,000 a piece. Is that about
Well,
right?
Well, yeah, I think it's somewhere, it's less than 15. Somewhere I saw 15, but somehow we got it for a little less than that.
It probably depends also, you use more asphalt on certain roads, like Hedges, because we had the pedestrian lanes, and on Crestview, it was thinner road.
Right,
So I'm sure it varies on where you.
right. And I forgot, I did talk to Edward Nahan yesterday about his experience on Crestview. You know, he headed up getting the petition to get that put in. And I didn't realize, he said he thought they were gonna get 2 speed bumps. But he said this, yeah.
I don't remember reading that.
Well, I never suggested that, and I never heard anyone ask if that's what they wanted. But he said they liked the result, and I was surprised. I thought I would hear a complaint about noise, but maybe the traffic isn't quite as bad as on Narrow Lane East, because the speed bump near me does create quite a bit of noise.
Well, right, Crestview is a dead end,
Right,
and
That
that,
doesn't have the trucks going.
it doesn't have as many trucks going that way
Right.
because there's only lawns to mow and people's houses to get repairs on one side. The other side is mostly farm.
right.
We also had a sign installed down there to say there was no beach access, so maybe that helped as well.
That's true, that makes a good point.
So
Well,
how
I
are we
see the
gonna
difference
proceed?
with
How are we gonna
I have one more
proceed?
question.
Yep, okay.
Have you heard anything about, what's the private community in Wayne Scott there? Georgia?
Georgia.
Yeah. They had a ton of speed bumps at one point and they took them all out because they had a person in a wheelchair there, and I guess the ambulance that would pick them up for whatever reason was a low riding ambulance. And it couldn't get through the speed bumps, so they took all the speed bumps. Do you know anything about that?
Well,
Wow.
I used to do projects down there, and the speed bumps were very, I never
Too
measured
big?
them, but they were probably, if you stretch it out like a table, they go up and over, there's no problem with it. They were very short, like a parking lot type of speed bump.
We looked at that question, and I think it was an engineering issue. They may have been old speed bumps, old designs. And the new speed bumps, there were actually engineering specs on them, which set out how far they have to be, how high they have to be. And they've been cleared by fire department, EMS, volunteers, never an issue.
Okay.
No, they were just old.
Yeah.
I know some firemen don't like it, but I think it's a matter of, I don't like them, but you know, the thing, you have to do something that works, and seeing what they had in Patchogue, which is really, I mean, those are nasty speed bumps. They were short and they were tall. And their fire department, they get to the fire, they get to back, I don't know.
They were also very close together in Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
Similar to the safe zone we created, but we had 3 roads coming together at the school.
The school.
But they were more like that, where if you're on Seg Main and you get 2 right close in a row by the school. The ones we saw in Patchogue on the field trip were like that. And effective in front of the fire department and that busy street they were on.
Right,
Also, the housing on those streets is different than the housing here.
right,
It's not psychoponic, that's for sure.
right. Yeah, that's for sure. Where do we go from here?
Well, can I suggest, like I've said other times, that we just split it by location and try to get some of it moving forward here?
I'm wondering if I could write a letter to the community through my lens.
Rhodey can give you the email list, and it's available to anybody to do anything they want.
And
So,
I mean, just to put the other side out there
Yeah,
and see what
yeah.
happens.
you want to do that? Fine. So when do we make a decision with this? We're going to put it off till,
Next month.
Well, when would the speed bumps actually go in? So,
into the fall paving
right, so
season. Yeah,
if people want another month, it's not going to delay
No,
the speed bumps.
no.
That's why I had suggested we start talking in July, because October comes around pretty fast.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that we got a lot of correspondence for
Rhodey,
overwhelming
did you
support.
give Carrie? She's going to make an individual appeal.
I was hoping to give it to Rhodey so she could send it all out.
No,
Anything wrong with
you're
that?
gonna- This is not, I already sent something from the whole village asking the question. If you want to set out something that's different than that,
It's pretty similar. put in a different light.
I think you can send it as an individual. What?
Maybe I have a suggestion, maybe,
Okay.
just building on kind of what Lisa was saying. Maybe there's a majority, Kara's kind of resistant to the amount of them. Maybe there's a majority consensus for some locations.
That's what we're, last time when we started discussing it, and if we all submitted, just so you guys know, roads and areas and things to be discussed, if you took all those options, which was 14 on yours, I don't even know how many there was on mine, what Marilyn said about Bridge Lane, a variety of things that were said, and you do it by road, we could get some consensus going here.
Want to work on that right now?
Yeah, but I don't have those things in front of me. Do you
I
have
do.
our reports?
Why don't you work on mine first?
Excuse me, in your books, under old business.
Our letters are in there.
Are all the letters, are the priorities by the board.
Well, I didn't realize it was in old.
Right,
My
and
apologies.
then before that are all the letters from the emails and all those that I've received from the last meeting, since the letter was sent out, since the mayor sent the letter out.
Let's see, I think I heard everyone somewhat interested in one by Sag Bridge.
Yes.
Okay, so that's something you can agree on?
Well, to quell the speed limit, going west of the bridge, because we don't have any jurisdiction on the west side, but we do on the east side.
Yes.
Going
Yep.
Are we talking Bridge Lane or Sag Road?
Bridge Lane.
Bridge Lane. We own a tiny bit of land on the west side, but not enough to do anything.
Yeah, slow them down on the bridge.
Right,
So they can.
okay, well, that's a
grab their
start.
piece.
We had 12 people sign a petition to get one on Main Street, south of Bridge Lane, going to the beach. A group from Sag Pond Court, Main Street, and a couple people from Sand Dune
Sand
Court. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy,
That's where I'd like to see police monitor them for a little bit.
do we respond to that, or we tell them to pound sand?
I think where the acceleration starts and where Tom Babcock's list, because he was the one who put it
Right.
together.
Right,
So I'll use his name. See, from because that's on my route many times, and it seems to start once they've gone past Bridge Lane and they're heading straight to the beach. That little private road on the right, what is that one called? Something
Sag Pond
Pond?
Court.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're paving it currently, must be private.
No, it is not private, and the reason why it's being paid is because PSC&G took it up,
Oh,
so they have to.
Oh, I just assumed it was private when I saw it
No, it is
being
not.
paid. Okay, so the acceleration in my life, but I shouldn't be the only one, seems to be between Tom White's corner area
Right,
to that beginning of that road. They hit that section and they go right there. You can't put a speed bump unless I'm mistaken down in the past Sand Dune Court because of the,
oh, no, that's too late, anyway.
it's also too wet.
I think you're right about the speed. The only concern I have is you put it close to somebody's house who doesn't buy into it. You know, on Narrow Lane East, Tom Domkowski wanted it.
Right,
I wanted it. So I listened to the trucks and I
Yeah.
don't care. I love
but,
it.
so what we need to know from that list of Tom Babcock's, there was one person that said they liked speed bumps, but not in front of
There
their
was
house.
185, which is farther down.
It's farther down.
Yeah. right.
So we need to know the number, if we proceeded in that direction, in front of, right before Sand Dune Court, there is one house there. And I don't think Tom White's house is lined up with that, but
Well, we could probably, we'll take a look at it.
okay, so whatever the number in that section.
Yeah,
And if it's not the person that said they supported speed bumps but didn't want one in front of their house,
no, that was a good 1085
Yes.
Saguenay, so that's down.
you have to come up here.
Bill,
then.
Bill, can I make a suggestion
What?
that, excuse me. like we have in the past, when you've decided on what roads and how many speed bumps you want on, you then give it to the village engineer.
Right.
And the village engineer plots it on like a Google
Right,
map
no,
before you make your
I've
final
always
decision.
taken a line with him to make
right.
sure that trying to
So,
move it away from
to say
people's
you want
houses. Yeah,
2 on Sac Main Street, south of Ridge Lane and north of Sand Dune Court. We'll give them that 2 and tell them to place them. And then you guys can look at it and say, yay or nay. Do you want to do it that way?
I've always gone out with him and I usually, we've always
Right.
agreed on the location.
Right. But what I'm saying is so that the board as a
Yeah.
whole
Okay,
can look at the locations and trying to figure out
Kind
the
of physical.
exact location
Right.
right now. I don't think that's going to be possible.
right,
So if you agree that you want to put 2
right.
in that area, then we'll put the 2 down and I'll take the list to,
I think
Jim
we're looking at
Peterman.
1 south of Bridge Lane. I
Okay,
don't think
so
you
that's
need
1.
2 in there just to get the
Got
speed down from
Got
the excessive,
and can I go back to Bridge Lane? You wanted 1 on Bridge Lane, correct?
right, between
Okay.
the bridge and Seascape.
Okay.
But don't you need, want to vote on each one, or how do you want to do
No,
this?
what I'm
I thought we just had
suggesting,
agreement on it.
Oh, we did
Yeah.
have agreement. Okay, but I'm just asking, are you doing it via vote or just being our general conversation?
what I'm suggesting is discuss it, get it down, let me bring it to the village engineer, so next month you can see the Google map with the locations of them before you make a final vote on that's where you want it. Because you're not gonna lose anything. You're gonna be able to intelligently say, yes, that's where we decided to put it.
Sounds like a plan to me.
That sounds like a good plan.
So that way I won't misunderstand where it is. And then we have a bump back on, well, that's really not where we want it. That way we're all on the same page. Is my suggestion.
Did we already have that? scenario?
Sounds too reasonable.
Well, sorry, Bill, that's the way I work. Because it's gonna come back to me if it's
You
wrong.
have something short?
Really short.
Okay,
That strip that we're talking about has a long section that has no houses on either side of the road.
south of Bridge Lane,
Yeah,
right.
Main
and
Street.
I think right in the middle there, you won't have much resistance. You will
Well,
be.
that was my thought, but I'm
That's
listening
all.
to, yeah, right. No, I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got Bridge Lane, we got Sac Main Street south of Daniels, Bridge.
How about Lee Foster's?
So
Do
Sac
we
Main
get
Street.
Lee Foster?
Absolutely.
How about Daniel's Lane?
We'll get
Oh,
her.
so then, 1, 2, 3.
No, just 1, I think, right between you own both sides of the road. Down by the fence, just short of your house. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so.
I don't care, wait a minute.
North of Bridge. By Lee's house, okay. Got it. Next. So from
Daniel's
his
Lane
range,
should definitely be discussed.
I know Bill on his did want the 2 between, in his section between Gibson Lane and Fairfield. And I agree. I mean, that's where you have all the children and you have, yeah,
He originally, we discussed it close to the stop sign. I think what was said earlier makes more sense, that as they start to accelerate coming up the hill, for lack of better
From
term,
Gibson Lane.
from Gibson Lane, for those people that remember the Bradley house, it's kind of coming up to it. And then you have your stop sign if the person chooses to stop on the other end helping you. So I would say coming up that hill somehow. But you have to look out for driveways and whatever goes up there.
1 or 2?
1 there, but there's got to be 1 in the strip, the straight part somewhere.
Past Fairfield?
Past Fairfield, maybe near Peters Pond Road area.
well, we have one
let's back up.
east of.
I suggested 2 between Fairfield and Gibson. Bill suggested 2 between Fairfield and Gibson. I think that's a stretch where there are enough people where, even though they're a little bit closer together, you won't get that effect where people hit it and they speed up and then hit the, you contain them simply because That's where the children are.
But I think what we were saying is after Fairfield, between there and Potato Lane, I mean, Peters Pond, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I think you need one there too also.
Well, Bill, you have 5 on Daniels Lane
Yeah.
to be put in.
Right. 2 before Fairfield Pond, 1 between Fairfield and Peters
Peters.
Pond,
1 east of Peters
1 east of Peters.
and
and
1 between Erica's east and Erica's
Right.
west.
Right,
I think because we have well, the 3-way that you can enter at Fairfield, that stop sign is workable. I would go with the one we just said near, as you're coming up the hill, 1 after Fairfield, 1 after our current bump, and 1 down toward Erica's has 2 entrances and exits. I don't know if they have different names on them, but the
East and
further,
west.
the further
Yeah.
east one in that section. Because we have no stop sign on Daniels coming off of the more easterly Erica's Lane.
right.
And there are a lot of kids in that section.
So 1 between Gibson and Fairfield, that's it?
No, I would do 2. I mean, I would for 2.
Well, that's 3 of us. 3 of us want 2 in there.
Yeah.
That's in your backyard. Yeah. Can we agree on doing 2 in that stretch and the
It
rest?
depends on location. I want to visually see
Well,
them.
Bill had laid them out when it's just beyond his house. Well, they're almost equidistant. That's the idea. So they're kind of,
Yeah.
Well, due to the noise factor, I still think you have to say where it is and whether that person wants it right in front of the driveway.
they wouldn't be. It was between 2 houses. You've got two big houses
Well,
and you've got the
we don't have
hedge
the map
line.
up. I'm sure
Right.
it probably wasn't,
Right.
but until that goes back to what Ray
Okay,
said.
can we put it down as 2 and then have it reviewed? Is that
And-
okay?
And then
Do
the
you want to
ones,
go out there and mark it? You can go out there and mark it if you want.
we have to have the engineer mark it because of, you can't put it where certain things are.
I know.
So obviously, he, she is the end result. But we all have agreed on from Fairfield to Peters Pond, another one.
Oh, is that okay with you, Karen?
I'm not saying anything today.
Maryland,
Yes, it's okay with me. I think we need them.
and then in the Erica Court area, or Erica's Lane area, the further exit of Erica's Lane.
Okay,
Well, Bill's got down between Erica's east and west. That's.
Yeah.
So that's 4 for Daniels right now.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
So that's 2 between Gibson and Fairfield.
Yep.
1 between Fairfield and Peters Pond, 1 between
The Erica's.
but not east of Peters Pond Road.
That one, that's left out.
That's correct. That one was left out.
That's fine, it's getting closer. There aren't any houses in that section, and if you're riding a bike out there, you're fair game. Right?
Okay.
no human being is fair game to get hit. That sounds horrible.
Next.
Hedges. Once the post office opens up. Originally, I wanted a stop sign there, but that was shot down, but we could put a speed bump in there. It's between, there's no house close to it. I know Barbara McCoy has trouble getting out of her driveway.
Yeah, and Don Lockheim said that too.
Yeah.
His driveway.
Yeah.
Coming down the hill there, as you're coming down Hedges toward Sagmain, that's the stop sign that people get some momentum coming down that hill and they kind of around the corner there. I don't know what section in there you would put it, but that section just prior to where we're putting the temporary post office should be looked at too.
I was thinking the temporary post office will be an open field in the future, and there's an open
That's
lot on the other side. In terms of noise complaints, it's a natural place to put something. If you want to make people stop at the stop sign, I mean, it's gone now, but the speed bump they put in North Haven on Tyndall Road, I was amazed. It was a little tiny thing. It was only about as wide as a piece of paper. It was rubber, and they had it pegged down with steel pegs. And it wasn't terribly high, but if you didn't, I ran over it without stopping, and it was really surprising, the effect of something like that. I wasn't going to suggest it because I think the whoever's next to that bump is not going to like the noise it produces.
They're pretty brutal for those.
It was like a parking lot bump.
Yeah.
You know how they do those, and they're really, even, they don't look like much before they really bounce because it's such a short little thing.
Well, and we know trucks carrying a separate trailer.
Yeah,
We know that each speed bump they run into creates noise for the people living close by. So we all have lots of trucks on our roads, so we know that.
but I mean, at my house, those guys with the trailers are learned. They really slow down. They still make noise, but they go very slow because I don't know what it's going to break, but they're scared. Right, John? I mean, they really slow down for those things. It's the biggest effect. Commercial vehicles do not like speed bumps. So we agreed to one near the temporary post office. Is that something that Marilyn says yes?
I can agree to that because they start to speed up after heading west after our last current speed bump, and they blow down that hill area.
Yeah, the other two, one west of Wilkes, and I know there's houses there. I mean, it makes me nervous. But between the two, I know people do speed up when they go through there. I know the two people on Wilkes who I spoke to who did not like speed bumps. I offered, I said, well, how about a stop sign at the end of your road? Wouldn't that make it better? And they said no. And
The stop sign doesn't make noise,
right, and it's cheap.
and it's cheap, and
Yeah.
it can happen next week.
I'm all in favor of it. I mean, some people.
We
make
can
low
get stop
favor.
signs up very quickly.
Yeah.
So, I don't think the stop sign's a bad idea because the entire length of hedges, we put stop signs in Daniels in the last
Right.
year or so. We haven't done hedges. Hedges, Daniels are gateways to get out of town. Narrow lanes, gateway to get out of town. They come in either bridge or by the school. And in your case, they're coming down Wainscot, what do you call it, road there, but for narrow. But it's the gateways that we're trying to slow them down from.
Would a stop sign be preferable? I'm fine with it.
I have no trouble. There's not one stop sign on hedges in that long section.
That's what it was Jim who was talking about. Google was saying that, I know it's real time, so I guess we're going to talk about it again. The stop signs actually affect the ways that they send them. They have the stop signs, they're less likely to send them that way, but
I also think they helped on our side of Town Line Road because ours went in first, because it was easy for us to put them in. In that the people coming down Wainscot Old Main Street, they couldn't literally turn left to head
Oh, yeah.
to Town Line Road Beach
yeah.
because the people were coming down, and that was part of my commute, sports commute regularly with my two granddaughters, and I literally couldn't get back down to Daniels Lane.
Right. No, I had the same experience.
So that, those stop signs really helped on our side. I mean,
So-
the other side took months for them to get
Yeah.
approval. We're
But
lucky.
It helps too that they have bad pavement.
Yeah, it probably does.
A little bit. Is that something we'd rather do instead of a speed bump, do a stop sign?
Well, I think you don't have one on Hedges. We can get it in and maybe see results in the month of August.
I make a motion, we authorize them to,
No,
you
I
know,
would present you with a resolution at the August 9th meeting because you've got to amend your village code.
Oh,
You gotta do
that's
the
right.
chapter.
The-
You can do it by resolution.
I'm glad you're here. I'm
Why
glad
I'm
you're
here,
here.
Bill, keep you in line.
So I
We need a
will,
bigger stick.
If you like to put it, and I'm assuming you're talking about the intersection of Fairfield and Hedges, or did I miss part of that?
no, Wilkes.
Wilkes and Hedges. Okay, so that's where you want the stop sign to be. Correct,
Yeah, it would be on Hedges Lane at Wilkes,
got it.
right?
Okay, I will have the resolution to you at the August 9th meeting for that.
Okay. Beyond the speed bump, I know McMillan thought that would be helpful from his standpoint where he lives, but any, I mean, we could bring, if you want to drive the road and maybe think about that.
So beyond the second one heading east.
I
I'd have
can't
to
remember
see.
the name of that road, the next one down.
Jacobs.
Oh, Jacobs. Right.
She has a
Just 'cause I
cheat
wrote
sheet
it
there.
doesn't
He's
mean
got
I
it right in
remember
front of
it.
him. Yeah, she has her good sheet with her. She was paid, she was better prepared.
You want to take a look at that, think about that? Okay, so that's,
Okay, so right now we have the one just east of the temporary post office on Hedges,
yeah, right where the post,
And then-
it's an open lot.
the proposed
That's a
stop
speed bump,
sign,
right?
speed bump, correct. And then the stop sign at Wilkes, the intersection of Wilkes
Right.
and Hedges, on Hedges.
Right,
Okay,
and
got
anything
it.
on Hedges is subject to going out and looking at, you know, see that how the distance is from one to the next. And
So maybe more if this is what you've got for your August meeting.
really calling Audi,
we have the
saying,
Steve Rogan petition from SAG. I think that's the last thing, right?
Yes.
you know, like, did they put down the service department?
I actually spoke with Max Rom from the winery, and he was very happy that the people coming and going from this winery might get some relief from the speeders coming down Sag Road.
Where are we talking?
Side road between.
Wolfer.
Yeah, Wolfers,
Right,
over
Wilford.
and we had Lauren and his wife Dunlop sign on to it. And actually, I spoke to Freddie and Eileen Wilford, and they were very on board with it. And Barbara Bornstein was not sure about one near her house, and she's still thinking about it. So I don't know when that will happen, but
This is where the new stop signs went in, right?
yes, it would be near the driveway to the winery.
You also have a road that feeds into that vehicles sometimes go around to avoid the bridge, so.
I stopped driving on it because when you try to get onto Sag Road,
Yeah.
the site distance is short, even though the zoning board had a case there, made the guy move his trees back, but you still can't see.
Yeah.
And people come and they get, even after they stop at the stop sign, they pick up a tremendous amount of speed coming downhill, and I don't go on that road anymore. Is that something that seems reasonable, one there? I'm trying to get a list that we can give to the engineer then, and then he can go out and go through this.
What was the second?
Well, no, just one by Wolfer's driveway to the winery.
But it also helps what he was just talking about.
Right.
It helps that,
And this is
On
a
road.
speed bump or a stop sign?
A speed bump. Yeah,
I'm against.
okay, we'll give it to, okay.
Okay.
That's the end of it.
So
for
let's,
now.
let me just recap the list here. So Bridge Lane, we're gonna have one between the bridge and the stop sign.
Yep.
Going east. Sag Main Street, one from the
South of
south
Bridge
of
Lane.
Bridge Lane and north of Sand Dune Court.
Let me ask a question about the Bridge Lane one. You're saying going east to the stop sign. We're putting one in for the westerly driving traffic, correct? So they slow down
Actually,
to
both
go over
ways.
the bridge.
Both ways. I've come over the bridge, and as soon as the road straightens, the people pass you. I mean, that's what my experience, because I'm going slow. And,
Well, it would capture both directions, because it's gonna go across the whole road.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is it should be closer to the bridge than further away to get the people slowed down for the bridge, as opposed to coming off the bridge.
generally, you don't put them where the road is turning. It's got to be a certain distance from a turn, so there's a sight line. I mean, I've been raising the engineering, so that's,
Okay,
yeah, I mean, it really comes up to Peterman going out and, saying, well, people need this distance to see it so they can slow down.
And then,
sorry to
on
interrupt.
that's okay. On Sag Main Street, one north of Bridge Lane by the Foresters.
We didn't talk about that yet.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we did. You
Oh.
napping?
I guess I was.
And then on Daniels Lane, we have two between Gibson and Fairfield Pond Lane. And we have one between Fairfield Pond Lane and Peters Pond Lane. And we have one between the entrances to Erica's. Then on Hedges Lane, we have one east of the temporary post office. And then we're gonna install stop signs at Wilkes, the intersection of Wilkes and Hedges. And then on Sag Road, one near the driveway by the winery.
One
Which
what?
would be one speed table north of the intersection of Hildreth and Sag Road. By the winery. Got it? Okay, that is what I'm gonna give the village engineer, so we will have something for you at the August 9th meeting.
And I want to ride with him.
Okay, I'll let him know that.
Before, and we seem to agree.
Okay, I'll let him know that.
So what was on Sag Main again? Foster Farm?
Right, somewhere in, by the Forster Farm. One there.
So that's 8 speed.
They own both sides of the road, so they can't complain. Not allowed to complain.
They want them.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in total.
And Bill
Nine?
Barber would
Yes.
probably
No,
like to
those
ride
are
with you
eight
once he's
people.
allowed to,
Yeah.
and he's healed enough to sit up.
Yeah, I mean, I went over one of them, he and I agreed on once before.
Yeah.
The other one will be closer to Tinker's house.
Okay, I don't have 8. That's all right.
No, but I'm just saying he'd probably like to go along too, just because
Oh, yeah.
he's been such.
He has
Lying
been-
down flat, Bill, lying down flat, so nothing is disturbed, and he'll still feel it, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he's about ready to crawl
I know,
up and
on the
over a
ceiling.
wall. Oh, my God, I can't imagine.
Well, hopefully, reattachment's better than it used to be.
Okay, Bill.
Let's see, assembly permit application,
No, it's a
more routine.
private birthday party on Holden Court. August 4th from 6 PM till midnight. And it is a residence with 150 people attending with 25 workers. It's dinner and dancing. They're expecting 75 vehicles. They do have a valet company, People Pool. They will have on-site security. And there's a gourmet company. S&P is the refuse company. There will be having portable bathrooms. There's a DJ, a band, string lighting, no signs, and a big tent of what, 40 by 80? Was it?
Wow.
I think I read that somewhere.
Wow.
4580? Maybe not. Anyway, I'm concerned about the time frame, 6 to midnight,
Yeah.
with it being music and a DJ.
Yeah,
And this is an annual event.
Oh,
and for
really?
many years, I haven't received any complaints here in the office. I cannot say that the police have not.
Can you
But
tell me exactly where 3 Holden Court is? Is
Yeah,
that by Deer?
if you go,
Deerfield? No, not
nope,
Deerfield.
nope, it's the Ericas. And then it shoots off.
Oh,
the
that's
gas.
right.
Okay. Erica's off of Daniels.
Yeah.
And then Holden Court is a little dead end off of Erica's.
Oh, okay.
That's
If
why
you're
they
looking for
take
the
the point.
parking plan,
Yeah, so that's what I
yeah, so
didn't.
here's
I
Daniels
wasn't-
Lane, and it's up right up on here.
Holden Court
So
opens up
here's
into
where-
one of the
oh, you
big
don't have the
farm.
other
Yeah,
section.
right,
It might not be any good.
You can't make it worse.
absolutely.
In your email, where they were gonna park.
Well, they're gonna park here. They park along Erica's. This is where they've done it for years. And then they, I think they park staff over here along the field
On Daniels.
on Daniels.
Any questions?
No.
What is there a noise timeframe?
Yes, midnight.
Midnight?
Oh,
But I also tell people just because they have a permit does not mean that they have a car launch on, disturbing the entire neighborhood. If people complain, the police will come. And they should comply.
No questions? Okay, I make a motion that we grant these people a permit for their private birthday
I'll
party.
second it. All in favor?
Aye.
So there's also an application for an assembly permit for the Kurt's Summer Party. July 29th from 7:30 to 11:30. And let's see, this is the 40 by 80 tent.
There you go.
Yeah. And a 15 by 40 service tent, so there'll be 2 tents. It's in residence. 120 people are expected with 30 to work, so a total of 150. It's just a summer party in the backyard for family and friends. They're expecting 25 vehicles. For 120 people, I think there might be more than 25 vehicles.
That's my response.
Yeah.
They want to be cool with that.
Maybe,
This day
yeah.
and age.
There is a valet company. It's People Pool again. There will be no security. Elegant Affairs is catering it. Refuse is tipsters provided by the catering company. Okay.
Yeah, that's supposed to be dumpsters. That's fancy
Oh,
word for dumpsters.
okay. Guests will be using restrooms located in the pool house, so there will be no portable bathrooms. There is going to be a speaker under the tent, a DJ under the tent, bistro lights in the tent, 40 by 80 tent, and a 15 by 40 tent. That's a service tent. Any questions on that?
No,
is this something that happened before too? or
this one
is
has
new?
happened before, yes. It's on a flag property off
Okay.
of Hedges.
And they haven't been good citizens,
No complaints in my
no
office.
police reports.
We have had for years some regulars.
Yeah.
Their street
They-
called.
It's Hedges
Good
Lane, there,
neighbors.
233 Hedges Lane.
You'd like to think that they,
Oh, right here.
if they've done it for years and we haven't heard anything, we're not gonna have troubles.
So if you go past Fairfield Pond,
Yeah.
and there's a map on the parking there. So here's Fairfield Pond. They're gonna park along the field here.
So they're gonna be
And
right
then-
on the road too.
The parking is gonna be on the road, then they're gonna shuttle them down this, and the lot is actually located in the middle. That was part of the Daniel Hedges subdivision when we first became incorporated.
And
They were
then
just finishing that subdivision
the staff is parking across the street.
in front of this field.
Okay. Look good to everybody?
Sure,
I make a motion.
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Got a lot of financials, take a look at it, things look okay to me. Right, Brody?
Yeah.
They look okay to me, no correction on me?
It's all good, Bill.
Let's see, so want to make a resolution to approve bills for the following funds and the following amounts. As per the warrant dated July 19th, 2023, $77,768.18 from the general fund.
Can you do them
$10,741.
individually, please? Bill?
Oh, okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
From the tree fund, $10,741 even. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
From planning trust and agency, $5,142.75. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And from the capital highway fund, $600. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Do we have any other comments from the floor? Anybody else want to get up and bang your shoe on the podium or?
I would like anybody who thinks they can find a farmer who would sing on the 23rd of September for the bridge party. Carrie, you have a lovely voice. What? It's a parody on Queen. We will rock you. It is a glorious song. I need a whole bunch of young vocal farmers who'd be willing to sing at the bridge at noon or sometime that day, right?
What was the day?
23rd, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's our initiating of the
Centennial.
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 Which we're gonna have to get some details on this, Bill.
Yes, there has to be, I know, there has to be.
I found minutes
But I
from a
have
year
to-
ago when I said, you better get started on this, Bill, because before you know.
I offered to perform a wedding.
We have the wedding. You said two
Yeah,
weddings.
2 or 3, whatever.
We have the wedding. That's
We could
done.
do it like the
Are you gonna
movies.
try?
You could get 1,000 people and they could marry them all at
But
once.
my point is, Bill, are you closing down the road? If you're gonna close down the road, you got, obviously you're gonna close the road down because you want to do
Right.
the Diamond bridge.
He's
So
not
we have
doing
to
the wedding with the
work
road
with
system.
the Police, and we're
Okay.
gonna have to get this. Now, do you want to have a stage there? Do you want to have?
I
some
always
kind of
hope there was somebody in the
amplification
weeds who said they would pick up and run with this and they've never appeared.
Well, but we never really reached out to them.
Who was
Oh.
that?
So
I
it
don't
was,
remember.
it was one
Somebody-
of our residents.
Somebody was
I don't
an
think it was
event
Jim
planner.
Krusky, he was somebody else.
Right.
Their wife is an event planner.
Event planner.
And
Yeah.
offered her services, but we never.
Could be more exciting.
We never
Reached
reached
out
back
to her?
out to
Oh.
them. So, we
Well,
want to
we
take
need the
down
bridge
there.
closed from at least from 11 till 1. So somebody could show up, get married and jump off the bridge and.
But
That's what marriage is all about.
I think Lee had.
so then what else would you want down there? Do you know,
Who-
besides the
what-
marriage?
Somebody else, well, we're gonna have a song, I guess. I'll sing with you.
And there were gonna be, there was a possibility of swimsuits.
Well,
Oh,
there's a lot of possibilities, but we need to.
Coolers and beer.
well,
Let's put it
Distillery
on
vodka.
August
Next
9th agenda. August 9th agenda that this is brought to his detail. Yeah, see, look, Brody's getting nervous about the details.
she's an organization person and
Yeah.
And maybe you just want to wing it, we'll throw up, put a couple of people, get the fire police to stop the traffic for 3 hours.
yeah. That may be all that happens.
Cooler of beers, and I think we're good to go.
It could be, a hurricane might add some
Well, that's
excitement.
what
We had a bushel of clams. And
Dennis,
Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
I like this one.
What is it, a flash mob?
It's
Have a
what?
flash mob.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, but there's some kind of internet thing where everybody shows up at once.
The same name.
Get the drummers.
The drummers. There you go.
We can get Jay Steinerman to lead that.
That's the first day of autumn. Am I gonna be here? Karen?
I'm doing a wedding floral arrangements, and I think it's, oh, maybe that's Sunday. I gotta double check that.
Okay, so we'll discuss that further at August 9th.
I guess we're gonna adjourn the meeting.
You don't want reports?
Oh,
First of all, the woman who supports my reports the most is sitting here. She told me this for whatever, 14 years she was on the board. She loves the reports.
I don't know. I think people ought to go to some meetings and actually see them, and find out how it all goes on. I was at the last zoning board meeting because I wanted to talk to them afterwards. So.
And they're good summaries. They're very good summaries.
And they work very hard, and they had 3 exciting things on it. So yes, no, wait till next month, your decision.
Oh, I don't care. I mean, I read this stuff.
Yes,
anyway,
let's
so.
hear it.
Okay, zoning board happened last Friday, and there were 3 items. A decision was made on 471 Secponic Road, which I reported about last month. And it was in reference to the roof height of an existing building after construction being 37.3 when 35 feet is allowed. The decision passed, and as discussed last month, if the roof had been pitched, this wouldn't have brought it to zoning. And there was a lot of complications that went with the discussion, but it did pass. 53 Hedges Lane was a new zoning situation. And for those who remember, it was Michael Johnson's house. It's an area variance for a rear yard setback of 36.6 feet where the code requires 60 feet. The hearing was closed at the end of the discussion, and next month we'll hear the decision. 199 Wainscott Harbor Road was an area variance for a front yard setback from 38.2 feet where the code requires 60 feet. It's a pre-existing structure, and we all over the years know that sometimes the older structures were built closer to the road, and hence once they start renovating them, they have to go to zoning to deal with the problem. And the mass in the backyard was also part of the discussion and the problem. And this hearing was also closed, and next month we will hear the decision. Architecture, Historic and Review Board is next week, and it never quite lines up with our meetings, but last month there were several approvals. The highlights would be at the end of last month, the last week of the month. 106 Erica's Lane had a demo, which was approved. The rebuild design was put on the table, but has to come back. Just for informational purposes, you know how I've always said there's hot roads, they get all of the construction at one shot. Fairfield was really popular for a couple of years. Erica's Lane is on fire lately, guys. They had their share of demos and rebuilds. The next item after 106 Erica's Lane was 194 Erica's Lane. This is a rebuild. They're adjourned to next month due to glass issues. Also, many of our new proposals have quite large windows and hence glaring and things that aren't quite working with the architecture board. So that has to be worked on. 69 Farm Drive was adjourned to next month to the committee of 2. It's a pool house reconstruction. They actually took the pool house down and reconstructed a new one. But that's what they want to do. But the committee of 2 is just waiting for the color decisions, and then they'll be able to complete that. 518 Bridge Lane was approved. 377 Parsonage Lane asked to, one of our members is involved with that project, so they had to recuse themselves. So that is adjourned to next month. And depending on who is in attendance, if there's somebody that's working on the project in our community, Nick frequently has to recuse himself as an architect, so that will come back next month. 610 Main Street also asked to be adjourned because they wanted a full board. Many times applicants look for 5 people being present, and it's in relation to what they're going to ask, and they asked to be adjourned until the full board was present next month. So that's that. And
Thank
you
you.
can come back anytime to listen.
And I really encourage people to, if you can't attend a meeting, it's better to attend a meeting because you get a little more of what's going on versus what's recorded, but
They're
it's
all
interesting to
on
see,
the website now.
right,
You can watch it on the website.
yeah, yeah.
At your leisure.
But it's interesting to see what other volunteers are doing, what they're working on. So we can have a motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
That's yours.